Welcome to Body Buddies, home of the Power Foods lifestyle. Take it one meal, one workout, one day at a time. And now, here's the founder of Body Buddies, Kristy Jo.
Welcome to Body Buddies. I'm Kristy Jo, your host, and you are listening to episode number 159, 9 Signs You Are Not Eating Enough Food. Now, this is going to be my additional thoughts to a blog post written by authoritynutrition.com. They are kind of a conglomerate website for nutrition information. They have a lot of contributing registered dietitians and nutritionists, things like that. So really good content. I do feel it's very general blanket statements, which, as you and I both know, through all of our podcasts, if you've been with me on a little bit of a journey, hopefully if you are new to this episode, you will join me for many more episodes, as my goal is to educate you, to teach you how to think critically, and to avoid the pitfalls of assuming every ounce of information out there is for you, because it's not. Because there's so many of us out there, right? We have different body types, we have different needs, and being able to have the information in order to assimilate our own personal strategy is my goal as your body bud. So I'm going to be basically reading this blog post and adding in a lot of my additional thoughts as a strategist, as somebody who helps people to assimilate the information for what they need, as well as their psychology, what they're able to do in the current phase. We have to pursue sustainability first and foremost. If we are trying to take a crash and burn approach, the long-term science shows us that that's not effective. Now, it's not to say that we have to be moderate in getting to a body composition shift. I often encourage my clients, let's get to the goal and then let's talk about maintenance and principles and emotional management. And every person is different, and that's one of the beauties. I love coaching. I do not do it full time, and that's, if you've been with me a long journey through Body Buddies, you'll have seen me go through a lot of different phases, and currently I just do it very, very, very part-time. I am extremely selective in who I take on. In fact, you have to kind of jump through some hoops in order to get coached by me, and that's kind of my vetting process. Prove to me you want to get coached, you're coachable, you are ready for this. It's not inexpensive, and you do have to do quite a bit of work. So there you go. Have I pushed you away yet? Awesome. Good, because there's plenty of free information out there. I want to work with the best of the best of the best. People who are like, my gosh, Kristy, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I am ready to change my body. I'm ready to change my mindset. I'm ready to change all of this behavioral programming. I'm willing to learn, open my mind. I'm coachable. I don't know it all. I'm willing to listen. Let's go. So if that's you, you can submit your application at body-buddies.com/coaching. Alrighty, cool. It's been a pleasure coaching so many of you. And, as my focus changes and I take on more projects and have more opportunities, it's kind of a necessary evil that I've got to kind of scale back on what I do and shift and pivot and show you, I walk the walk. I do everything that I teach as well. So before we dive into this episode, just a few quick things. Organifi, you've probably heard of this powerful new green juice, complete with all the vitamins and minerals your body needs. Here's the thing, guys. Power Foods lifestyle, would I rather you eat vegetables at every meal 5 to 6 times a day? Absolutely. I want you to go into your cruciferous family. I want you to be eating leafy greens. I want you to be eating water-based veggies. There's a time and a place for that, and there's a time and a place that convenience kind of trumps it all. So if you're in a place that it's like, my gosh, I just need to get these nutrients in my body, I don't have time, then head over to Organifi.com, ORGANIFI, and use my code BODBUDS, BODBUDS, to save 20%. Next is jdjnutrition.com. They are the company I recommend for proteins. Check out the Source 10, the Ultra Whey, glutamine. I recommend every single person be on 5 grams minimum glutamine per day. That includes elderly people who were trying to prevent the muscle breakdown. That includes all my athletes and my people who are like, my gosh, let's sculpt the body. Let's go lift weights and break them down and get stronger. Yeah, you need it for muscle recovery, and for everybody else who your gut is getting destroyed every day through processing of foods, through our environment, through plastics, through chemicals. That glutamine is going to help repair your gut. So minimum 5 grams per day. I personally do 10 to 15, especially after a long day in the dance studio and in the gym. My body is aching. I need good, strong gut. It's number one for our proper brain function. So get that glutamine in your body. I just put mine in about 8 to 10 ounces of water in the morning, a little bit of some lemon squeezed in there, and I just do that first thing when I wake up. It's great. So jdjnutrition.com, you can save 15% on any of those proteins or the glutamine powder, which is again, it's an amino acid. It's very natural, tasteless, odorless. You will love it. BODBUDS, BODBUDS, will save you that 15%. Last but not least, and then we're going to get into the show of 9 signs you are not eating enough. Go get my free Power Foods list. You guys, I have put together so many resources to help you out. So this is something so many of our body buds print out, they put it on their fridge, they take it to the grocery store with them, and it just helps to have all the foods compartmentalized into their macronutrient groups, especially when you are walking in a grocery store with 500,000 products on the shelves. It kind of helps to just kind of blaze through it all, laser focus on what those really important things are. So go get that at powerfoodslifestyle.com/self-training. And if you ever forget these links, just shoot me a direct message on the Body Buddies Facebook page. I probably won't answer immediately, but I will get back to you with a direct link. Sometimes that's just easier. And say what up. Let me know you're listening to the podcast. I'd love to know who's listening. Okay, here we go. Number 1, low energy levels. Calories are units of energy your body uses to function. When you don't eat enough calories, you are likely to feel tired most of the time. The number of calories needed for these basic functions within a 24-hour period is referred to as your resting metabolic rate. Most people have a resting metabolic rate higher than 1,000 calories per day. Adding physical activity can increase your daily needs by another 1,000 calories or more. Although hormones also play a role in energy balance, generally if you take in more calories than needed, you will store most of the excess as fat. If you take in fewer calories than needed, you will lose weight. Again, I'm going to emphasize, although hormones also play a role in energy balance, that statement is true. Energy in, energy out. And then we start to get into nitty gritty. Okay, back to the article. Restricting intake to fewer than 1,000 calories daily can slow down your metabolic rate and lead to fatigue since you are not taking in enough calories to support even the basic functions that keep you alive. Eating too little has particularly been linked to low energy levels in older people whose food intake may decrease due to reduced appetite. Totally true. Last year, before my grandfather passed, I was blessed to be able to spend a lot of time spending time with him during the day since I run an internet business. And, trying to get him to eat was like pulling teeth. And, there's a time and a place you just kind of respect their wishes. But if you're dealing with any elderly people in your life and, that sort of caretaker role, just keep in mind if they really are complaining of low energy, there's a time and a place to encourage them. We do need to eat. Let's try to get a little more calories in. Try to go for a little more dense energy filled foods. Yes, we want healthy foods, but think about it. Like, a cup of lettuce is going to have what, like 10, 15 calories in it versus can we get them with some eggs, some dense fats in there, some proteins that carry a little bit more weight and energy. Calories is energy. I often, in my conversations with clients, I don't even use the word calories. I say, well, your energy level. And that's the training I want them to have, is because for some reason the connotation of calories can be quite scary at times and we psych ourselves out. Therefore, I like to replace the word calories with energy quite often. And, so think about that in your normal vernacular if there's not some substitutions you might be able to make. Other studies in female athletes have found that fatigue may occur when calorie intake is too low to support a high level of physical activity. This seems to be most common in sports that emphasize thinness like gymnastics and figure skating. Since I'm a dance teacher, I'm gonna throw that one in too. Just last night I was in class and one of the girls came up to me. She's like, Kristy, I have really low energy. And I was like, what did you eat? She's like, you're going to be mad. And I was like, did you not eat today? And she's like, well, I had like some saltines and I had half an orange. And I was like, honey, you have no fuel in your body and you're expecting yourself to exert all this energy. I'm like, and she's like, well, I had a Red Bull before I came. I'm like, oh, banging my head on the wall. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, we can't do this. So, I took a few minutes to explain to her why I did need her to eat. I gave her a few ideas, even if it's a little bit, half cup of cottage cheese, maybe some strawberries, if she could have a bowl of oatmeal. When I say a bowl, I'm talking half a cup of oats, that's a C in our vernacular, with some almond milk, if she could have 1 or 2 scrambled eggs with some spinach in it. And that if she did want to stay thin, guess what? You need to eat to stay or become thin, because our bodies and that metabolic capacity is going to adapt to the amount of energy coming in. Yes, we do want to create a deficit if we're trying to let our body use stored energy and use up some of that stored body fat that, might be clinging on that we really don't need. But that energy deficit, I'm going to refer to my other podcast episode called Healthy Caloric Deficits. In fact, I'm just going to Google that really fast so I can see which episode number that is. That is a very, very often downloaded podcast episode, because that's where I'm like, guys, that's our baseline. It's episode 82, Healthy Caloric Deficits for Fat Loss. It talks about that very precarious balance between an appropriate amount of stress in a deficit that we can be maintained to continue to facilitate fat loss, versus when the stress becomes too much, that metabolism says, whoa, we're not getting food coming in here and we're exerting a lot here. So we're just going to kind of slow our fires. We're going to slow these processes, and therefore we burn less. That is how we get into a big problem metabolically, because we are literally slowing down our metabolism. And I have never met a person who has been able to maintain that low of a caloric intake, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whether it's intentional or not. Maybe you are just too busy and it's just not a priority, and so you're not eating and you are skipping all these meals, and your total caloric intake is coming up to 600 to 800. You guys, I've had so many clients like this, and it's like pulling teeth to get them to eat because they don't put it as a priority. I'm pounding the desk. I hope you can hear me, because you guys, food is fuel. And if you think about the fact that it feeds into everything you do, your brain function, your energy, the way that, like, just the emotions of the day, let alone your body composition. I mean, you guys, your food is more critical than you have any idea, feeding into every process of your body. It is your fuel. So if you either withhold your fuel or you are not choosing optimal fuel, guess what? Will there be repercussion? Abso-freaking-lutely. All right. So please, let's watch out for that. Now, whether it is psychological reasons we're suppressing food, like in the case that the article just pointed out, that female athletes, and guys, I have worked with male athletes who do it too, so I don't think we should single out a gender here. Anybody who withholds on purpose because they think that that is going to result in a lower body fat percentage, it's usually simple lack of education. That was my story for 15 years. And I knew a lot, but nobody was teaching me this deficit and these numbers. Guys, I'm giving you the meat and potatoes on a platter, saying, here you go. This is what it's taken me a decade and a half to learn. Please learn from this. And I hope that you are. Okay, back to the article. Yet even light physical activity like walking or taking the stairs may cause you to tire easily if your calorie intake is well below your needs. So in summary, eating too few calories can lead to fatigue due to insufficient energy to exercise or perform movement beyond basic functions. Number 2, the sign that you might not be eating enough is hair loss. Now, losing hair can be very distressing. It's normal to lose several strands of hair daily. I'm going to counter that. Several? No. I've talked with many beauticians and people who work in the beauty industry. No, I'd say more than a few strands. I personally lose at least 50 strands per day. Now, I have very thick hair, but anyhow, several strands just sounds redunculous. All right. However, if you're noticing an increased amount of hair accumulating in your hairbrush or shower drain, it may be a sign that you're not eating enough. Definitely, I'm on board. Also, I would say not getting enough fat. Okay, if you haven't listened to my episode on the top 3 power fats you need to be eating, that's another one. Homework. Many nutrients are needed to maintain normal, healthy hair growth. Inadequate intake of calories, protein, biotin, iron, and other vitamins and minerals is a common cause of hair loss. Oh, that's another one, is not enough protein. Geez. And here's the fun thing. What's the easy fix? Start living a Power Foods lifestyle with your PVC and PVF meals. You're going to start getting those nutrients so easily, you guys. I've made the formula simple, simple, simple. Basically, when you don't take in enough calories and key nutrients, your body will prioritize the health of your heart, your brain, and other organs over hair growth. In summary, hair loss may occur as a result of inadequate intake of calories, protein, and certain vitamins and minerals. Now, in some of the people I've coached before, especially those who had a pretty aggressive goal, for instance, competing in like a bikini or figure competition, and we had to push them pretty darn hard to make the goal of their desired show, there have been cases that we do see lost hair growth. And oftentimes as we saw those symptoms, we'd have a good heart to heart and say, is this like, which is more important? Obviously, your body is showing you signs that this is a little too much. We're pushing too hard. Do we have time to scale it back? And I'm always trying to help my clients think about the balance between reality, between sustainability, between overall health, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And because there's a lot to consider within every decision we make about our particular approach with nutrition and fitness. So one other thought on hair is that, yes, make sure we're getting enough protein, make sure we're getting enough fats. I was tagged in a post recently about somebody who was being advised by a dietitian to eat 15 grams of fat a day, and I flipped a gasket. No. 25 grams of fat for women per day minimum, males closer to 30, 35. I'd say females 30, 35 as well, but that's, more like the national level. So something else, if you are new to Power Foods lifestyle, the best place to start is just get one of my recipe books and start making a few of the recipes. You'll start to get the feel for, every meal has a protein, every meal has some vegetables or a vegetable, or in the little notes where you'll see it says, make it a Power Foods meal, that I make a suggestion. I'm like, this meal really doesn't seem like it should go with veggies, but let's add it on the side so we can meet the formula, give our body that fuel. And so you can go get a recipe book. They're all PDF. I do not sell hard copies of my books. Only the actual paper book, the actual education book, is powerfoodslifestyleblog.com. You can go check out everything I've got available there. One of the signs that you are not eating enough food is constant hunger. Being hungry all the time is one of the more obvious signs that you are not eating enough food. Studies confirm that appetite and food cravings increase in response to drastic calorie restriction due to changes in levels of hormones that control hunger and fullness. One 3-month study followed mice who were fed a diet containing 40% fewer calories than usual. It found that their levels of appetite-suppressing hormones, leptin and IGF-1, decreased and hunger signals increased significantly. In humans, calorie restriction may cause hunger and food cravings in both normal weight and overweight individuals. In a study of 58 adults, consuming a 40% calorie-restricted diet increased hunger levels by about 18%. What's more, low-calorie intake has been shown to increase production of cortisol, a stress hormone that has been linked to hunger and increased belly fat. Essentially, if your calorie intake drops too much, your body will send signals that drive you to eat in order to avoid potential starvation. Summary: undereating can cause hormonal shifts that increase hunger in order to compensate for inadequate calorie and nutrient intake. I just have a few additional thoughts here, taking it a step further for our understanding. So when our body senses that decrease in calorie intake, metabolism slows. Think of metabolism as the sum of all chemical function. And so all those processes are going to slow in order to meet the energy intake that's coming in. So as I previously discussed very briefly, nobody can really sustain under eating careful what you say, right? Then someone gets all defensive and like, no, I can't, watch me. Okay, if you're that person, sit down. It's okay. And most people, most people, it's just not going to happen. There are too many events in life. There are too many emotions, coping needs, and things like that. So when that time comes and you are in a weakened state of mind, you're going to break. And that's when those hormones are really, as this part points out, they're going to trigger you to eat in order to compensate for the lack of caloric intake you've been having. And in a lowered metabolic state where you're not burning as many calories, do you want to know what that means? That means you're going to quickly tap out your glycogen stores, which is the stored form of glucose. And then once those tanks are full in your liver and muscle sites, spill over, baby, that's body fat. And that's assuming you have normal insulin receptivity. If you have any form of insulin resistance and your body isn't able to pull that glucose in and actually store it, then it's almost instant body fat gain. All right, number 4, inability to get pregnant. Now, this is a touchy one. I actually don't even want to focus on this one too much. I'm just going to read the summary. Pregnancy is something I kind of want to, I have my book, Power Foods for Two, Lifestyle for the Pregnant Woman. So you're welcome to purchase that at powerfoodslifestyleblog.com. I've heard so many beautiful things from people, just saying thank you so much. That really helped me have a good structure during my pregnancy. It's not like, certainly it's not a diet. We need to be fueling the body. Anyway, I have this sly, awesome plan in the back of my mind that I'm going to stay away from pregnancy topics in full until the day comes. I really do hope to have kids. And so I'm just going to stay away from this one too in depth. I'm just going to read the summary. Consuming too few calories can disrupt reproductive hormone signals, leading to difficulty getting pregnant. I will just say absolutely, I have seen, not in any of my clients, thankfully, all the people who have had difficulty getting pregnant that I've been able to work with, it's been dealing with autoimmune conditions and trying to decrease carbohydrate intake, getting their fats up so that their hormones could reset. It's very difficult to link, what's causation when somebody is able to get pregnant. And I think there's so many factors. I think nutrition is a big part, but it's not the sum total part. I think there's a lot nutrition. I think there's a lot hormone. I think there's a lot with any, fertility treatments, and a lot with prayer and faith. And I think all of these things together, for those who have been able to see that pregnancy happen when they've been wanting that, it's a very beautiful thing. And also saying this with a lot of, compassion and just a lot of love, as there are so many out there who this is a very, very difficult thing because there are struggles getting there. And so, just make sure you're doing everything in your power. This is what I tell my clients, just make sure you're doing what's in your power. That is, are you fueling your body? Are you taking care of your body? Are you respecting what your body's needs are? Are you learning what your body's needs are? So you can meet, good amounts of proteins and carbohydrates and fats and the vitamins and minerals, just so you can have that confidence in saying, yeah, I've done my part, and the rest is up to whatever your beliefs are, or however you're able to position that in your mind. So let's move on, just because it can be a really tough topic. Number 5, how you know you're not eating enough. Sleep issues. Sleep deprivation has been found to lead to insulin resistance and weight gain in dozens of studies. In addition, while overeating may cause sleeping difficulty, it appears that strict dieting can lead to sleep problems as well. Animal and human research has shown that starvation level calorie restriction, which is noted at under 600 calories per day, that's my insertion, leads to sleep interruptions and a reduction in slow wave sleep, also known as deep sleep. In one study of 381 college students, restrictive diets and other eating problems were linked to poor sleep quality and low mood. In another small study of 10 young women, 4 weeks of dieting led to greater difficulty falling asleep and a decrease in the amount of time spent in deep sleep. Feeling as though you are too hungry to fall asleep or waking up hungry are major signs that you are not getting enough to eat. In summary, undereating has been linked to poor quality sleep, including taking longer to fall asleep and spending less time in deep sleep. I'll never forget a text I got from a client several years ago. It had to have been 10:30 at night. And she said, Kristy, I'm so sorry for texting you, but I am terrified to eat right now, and my stomach is so hungry. And I said, okay, well, have you had your meal 6 yet? That's designed to be a post-evening meal, like a bedtime snack, supposing we're going to bed at a decent hour. And depending on our body clock, it could fall any time in the day, but meal 6 for the particular individual's, window of time. And she said, no, I want to trust you, but everything in me is just hearing what I've been trained for the past 40 years saying cutoff time of eating is after 7 p.m., that anything you eat after 7 will just go to body fat. And I was like, okay, sweetheart, we've talked about this a lot, and I can totally understand the psychological fears and emotional fears you're having right now. And I'm telling you that 40 years of programming is wrong. I can understand the general statement for general public that, if mainstream, if most people are going to bed at 10, and if mainstream, most people are eating an excess of really succulent, indulgent, empty nutrient, high calorie foods after work and in the evenings when they're watching TV. That's when the ice cream pops out. That's when the candies and the cookies and, it's like the reward time. Then I can understand how these national statements and very blanket statements are made to protect the general public who's never going to dive deeper to understand it. And I said, you are blessed to now be entering a new level of understanding. You are advancing beyond common thought, which is unique to the individual. Your body, we have factored into your strategy plenty of room in your energy intake. Better than that, protein and fats before bed have been shown in numerous studies to help you sleep better, have been shown to signal the hormone cholecystokinin, which helps you feel you're full and helps to decrease inflammation in your brain. It's been shown to reduce the likelihood of headaches when you wake up. And trust me, this is the hardest part, because this is your, thoughts versus what your coach is telling you to do. I said, you know what? I have seen so many people, different things, and I'm saying this will work, and you're just going to have to trust me. And that's going to be your choice. And I know it's scary, but I need you to eat meal 6, and I promise you, it is not going to body fat because it has been factored in. And that's one of the beauties of having a personal strategic food plan. You have the confidence in the logic and the education so you can override the illogical psychological thoughts. And that's the beauty of Body Buddies. That's really what it comes down to, is no amount of, loving yourself, or no amount of it's okay, or just, I don't know, I love those feel-good messages. But at the end of the day, if somebody told me that in the past 20 years of disordered eating and thinking, I would have told them to go, raise the middle finger and whatever else comes with that. That did not serve me in that state of mind. Proper education was what allowed me to begin the faith hypothesis testing to be able to override illogical psychological tendencies. Therein is my philosophy for not only preventing but treating eating disorders. Someday I hope to go back to school. I keep trying every year, and it just isn't right to go back and do my thesis in the treatment. My undergrad thesis was on prevention of eating disorders in dancers. It is published. It was wonderful to be able to present at multiple academic conferences with that. And I think, treatment is really powerful because I have a message that most people aren't hearing. I'm basically telling people it's okay you have an eating disorder. I'm actually going to be on a radio show in August talking about that. It's a very controversial radio show, which is why I was asked to come on, because I have a controversial view of eating disorders. It's okay you think like that, and you're probably sick and tired of people saying, you're really messed up and you really you need to stop. No, let's look at why you think the way you think, and let's respect the fact that there are reasons for why you think the way you think, and let's come at it from that angle, and let's figure out, what do you think? And within your knowledge at this point of healthy eating and fueling your body and body composition shifting, because my guess is at the end of the day, most eating disorders come from a need or desire to look a certain way due to perception, and then we start getting into the inner programming of what that inner perception does in terms of control mechanisms, in terms of how we view the world, how other people view us, in terms of control, in terms of the very perfectionistic self-approval that doesn't seem to come. We get into very deep psychological triggers. Anyhow, we will save that for another time. I'm just saying, guys, you need to have a strategy. And then if you are afraid of eating at night, that's going to give you the confidence to begin overriding that. And oftentimes you do. You do need a coach initially when it's difficult enough and that's programmed deep enough to get you through it. Number 6, irritability. If little things have begun to set you off, it could be related to not eating enough. Indeed, irritability was one of several issues experienced by young men who underwent calorie restriction as part of the Minnesota starvation experiment during World War II. These men developed moodiness and other symptoms while consuming an average of 1,800 calories per day, which was classified as semi-starvation for their own calorie needs. Your own needs may be lower, of course. So, that experiment has been used in so many studies and examples. If you're curious, definitely go Google it. It's very, very interesting. Basically, it's where, over the course of about a year, they want to determine the physiological and psychological effects of severe and prolonged dietary restriction and the effectiveness of dietary rehabilitation strategies. So they kind of divided the group, and they did a phase where they restricted the caloric intake, kind of a semi-starvation, and then they did a phase where they started to reintroduce and do that rehabilitation. And, so they wanted to observe what happened. So that's often referred to in the nutrition world, just so you know about that. A more recent study of 413 college and high school students also found that irritability was associated with dieting and restrictive eating patterns. To keep your mood on an even keel, don't let your calories drop too low. Summary: prolonged low-calorie intake and restrictive eating patterns have been linked to irritability and moodiness. I'm just going to add my 2 cents. Well, duh. Don't we all know that? It's called hangry, and it's a very real thing, and there's absolute chemical reasons for that. I know, especially in the case of those people who may be dealing with depression or anxiety, this can actually be a very significant trigger for setting into some of the, more difficult phases or onsets of these tendencies or feelings. And so oftentimes, especially when I'm working with somebody who has depression, anxiety, or bipolar, that has been one of the key parts of their beginning to manage a little bit better, is getting to very strategic meal timing, keeping fuel coming in the body. It keeps the brain fed with all the nutrients it needs to function properly, particularly fats. The brain needs fats. The hormones need fats. And I'll just throw this out there really quick. For most of these cases that I've worked with, people who come specifically to me saying, I need help managing, XYZ mental illness, and, zero judgment for me. I've dealt with my own things in life. We all dealt with things in life. Actually, at the time I'm recording this, on my other podcast, Power Your Life Today, we're in the middle of a 6-part suicide survivor series where I've interviewed suicide survivors. It's been the most beautiful, eye-opening, curiosity-invoking time. And it just, if there's one thing I've learned throughout everything I do, talking with people, and having the curious mind that I do, is simply, when you think you know something, you really don't. The more you know, the more you actually don't know. And it's that ever-increasing circle that, if the inner circle is what you know, then there's always the outer rim representing how much you don't know. And only the maturest minds realize they actually know nothing. And it's all relative. But anyhow, let's go ahead and move. Oh, I was going to throw out the little tidbit. The tidbit was with mental illness that low carb, high fat lifestyles, in other words, in our power foods lifestyle vernacular, a PVF lifestyle with either moderated carbs in a carb cycling strategy, a refeed strategy, a moderated low carb intake, maybe 1 PVC meal per day, or straight up ketosis is one of our more optimal strategies. And what I found to be for many people. Now, getting people there, of course, optimality is a different discussion when we're talking about how readily someone is able to dive into it versus how long are we going to take to start to ease into that and start changing those behaviors. So, but there's the optimality, you know? All right, number 7, feeling cold all the time. If you constantly feel cold, not eating enough food could be the cause. Your body needs to burn a certain number of calories in order to create heat and maintain a healthy, comfortable body temperature. In fact, even mild calorie restriction has been shown to lower core body temperature. In a 6-year controlled study of 72 middle-aged adults, those who consumed an average of 1769 calories daily had significantly lower body temperatures than the groups who consumed 2300 to 2900 calories, regardless of physical activity. In a separate analysis of the same study, the calorie-restricted group experienced a decrease in T3 thyroid hormone levels, whereas the other groups did not. T3 is a hormone that helps maintain body temperature, among other functions. In another study of 15 obese women, T3 levels decreased by as much as 66% during an 8-week period in which the women consumed only 400 calories per day. Ooh, that sounds awful. Ooh. Overall, the more severely you slash calories, the colder you're likely to feel. Summary. Consuming too few calories can lead to a decrease in body temperature, which may be due to, in part, to lower levels of T3 thyroid hormone. Now, I think that's a correlation. I don't think it's always causation. Blood pressure can have a lot to do with it. For instance, most of the time these days I'm eating very maintenance calories. I'm not trying to obsessively cut. I'm very, okay, 100% transparency. I'll say I'm 90% of the time happy with my body. When I get a little hard on myself, that's when I'm like, okay, you need to, dial things in a little bit more, step it up, watch your portion sizes. I'm always eating strategically, but sometimes, you make little swaps and you make a little exchange here, you make a little indulgent decision here or there, and they add up. And so when that happens, I don't crash diet. I say, let's tighten up the strategy a little bit more. Let's start being a little more disciplined with those choices. And that's really all that should be happening in the Power Foods lifestyle. So with that said, I have very low blood pressure. I always have. So I have a very low core body temperature. I'm constantly cold. I sleep with 4 blankets. I have a fear of being cold while I sleep. In fact, if I don't wake up sweating, then I can't sleep. Like, that's how hot I have to have it be. I'm known for keeping my car very hot. In fact, turning on the heater, even in the summer. I keep a heater by my desk at all times, heater bags. And so I know many women as well who also are cold. So I think, again, it can be correlation. Look at it. I don't think it's always like, if you are a cold person, you're not eating enough. So let's be careful not to just jump immediately to that conclusion. Number 8, constipation. Infrequent bowel movements may be related to inadequate calorie intake. This isn't surprising, since consuming very little food will result in less waste in your digestive tract. That makes sense, right? Constipation is typically described as having 3 or fewer bowel movements per week or having small, hard stools that are difficult to pass. This is very common in older people and can be worsened by poor diet. One small study of 18 older adults found that constipation occurred most often in those who didn't consume enough calories. This was true even if they got plenty of fiber, often considered the most important factor for proper bowel function. Dieting and eating too little food may also cause constipation in younger people due to slowed metabolic rate. In a study of 301 college-aged women, because they have to do 301, not 300, the strictest dieters were most likely to have constipation and other digestive problems. If you are having problems with regularity, it's important to take a look at the amount of food that you're eating and evaluate whether you're getting enough. Summary: strict dieting and undereating can lead to constipation, partly due to less waste product to form stool and slower movement of food through the digestive tract. I'll just say, I mean, first of all, I agree with all of this. I also agree with the fact that it's not just fiber that's needed in order to create proper bowel movements. And if you've listened to my podcast with Dr. Bob DeMaria, back in, gosh, let me Google that episode number. That was a fantastic one on female health. Let's see, Dr. Bob, I'm Googling in the podcast, Dr. Bob. Anyhow, he talks about how you need to have gone to the restroom, 2 to 3 times before noon. It's episode number 107 if you want to go listen to that. Female Hormones and Health, the Drugless Approach with Dr. Bob DeMaria. Very, very good episode. So, other thoughts on this are that no amount of artificial fiber intake is going to speed things up. Usually there's 2 reasons. If you are in a dropped carb approach, for instance, there's 2 things you can do to help speed things up in the bowel movement department, which is going to be cook spinach in butter, grass-fed butter. Just saute it up, add some protein. You can add some other vegetables. That will help, as well as decreasing the amount of nuts or nut butter in your diet. With most of my low carbers, people in PVF strategies or carb cycling strategies or keto strategies, I have found that 2 servings of any form of nuts in a day, like maybe it's 1 serving of 12 raw almonds and 1 serving of 1 tablespoon peanut butter, for some people's bodies, that's too much. And when I drop it down to 1, if not cut out nuts, boom, things start to move again. So it's pretty fascinating to see. So you might want to mess around with that if you're having trouble. But for most people, I mean, the Power Foods lifestyle peak ranges are going to hit you. If you eat 6 meals at the proper peak ranges, you're going to land somewhere between 15 to 1,800 calories, depending on how much you push those ranges. Remember, the Power Foods lifestyle peak ranges are a fat loss range. And so it will put you in a deficit, though not an extreme deficit. And it's a good starting point, remembering that everybody's going to be a little different. And there is, unfortunately, no crazy perfect test for knowing exactly where your calories are. So I start everybody on where my average understanding of what I see on a regular basis is of calories, and then we adjust from there. And I usually say, I need you to follow things for 3 to 5 days. Let's see if we can't get your metabolism pumping. And 95% of the time, we nail it every time. 5% of the time, people have they're like, oh my gosh, we're bloating, I can't eat the food. And that's the first sign to me. Number 1, they had no idea they were under eating before, and I have to really reduce their intake. And week by week, we add in 50 to 100 calories in the form of an additional C or an additional F or an additional P. And we slowly and strategically build that back up until we're at maintenance calories. We watch the metabolism pick up. We watch hormones and hunger signals return. It's really a fascinating thing to watch the body begin to respond again. And it's even cooler to hear people talk about it. They're like, Kristy, it's amazing. I feel like my body is alive again. I'm like, yeah, it's amazing what food does. Yeah, woo, woo, woo. Number 9, anxiety. Although dieting itself may lead to moodiness, outright anxiety can occur in response to very low calorie intake. Yeah, absolutely. In a large study of more than 2,500 Australian teens, 62% of those who were classified as extreme dieters reported high levels of depression and anxiety. Anxiety has also been observed in overweight people who eat very low-calorie diets. In a controlled study of 67 obese people who ate either 400 or 800 calories per day for 1 to 3 months, roughly 20% of people in both groups reported increased anxiety. To minimize anxiety while trying to lose weight, make sure you're consuming enough calories and eating a healthy diet that includes plenty of fatty fish to ensure you're getting omega-3 fatty acids, which may help reduce anxiety. If you don't like fish like I don't, then take your fish oil. Everybody, every adult, I recommend take 4 grams of omega-3s. Go get the pharmaceutical grade at NutriKey.net. Just unfortunately, what you're probably getting in the grocery store or at Costco is just not pure, and it's a very, very tricky pharmaceutical / nutraceutical world out there. And so please do your best if you're gonna even put forth a little bit of money to get something, it's worth it to get the right stuff so you're actually benefiting, okay? So in summary, very low calorie intake may lead to moodiness, anxiety, and depression in teens and adults. The bottom line, although overeating increases the risk of developing health problems, undereating can also be problematic. This is especially true with severe or chronic calorie restriction. Instead, to lose weight sustainably, make sure to eat at least 1,200 calories per day. Additionally, be on the lookout for these 9 signs that you may need more food than you are currently taking in. So to bring this home, I agree with the minimum of 1,200 calories per day. That's for females, and it's so rare that I ever want to see a woman eat under that. If you've started out lower than that, then I would recommend not immediately jumping to it, but slowly building into it so we don't have any repercussions. And men, I'd say minimum, even if you are super, super, super sedentary, minimum 1,600. And so just be wise. I really know that as you start to pair your foods, either as PVC, protein, veggie, carb, or PVF, protein, veggie, fat meals, that you will be providing your body the balanced nutrients that it needs in order to help give your body the amino acids to produce proper neurotransmitters for your brain, to feel full, to provide adequate energy. And yes, there's always going to be differentiations, and we need to play around and fiddle with it in order to find the right strategy. But as you start learning the principles of the Power Foods lifestyle, there's great power in there because you're going to start feeling differently. So if you are new to the Power Foods lifestyle, the best place to start is either by doing the 10-day power up. You can go find that at powerfoodslifestyle.com/power-up. And that is going to take you through a detox, preparing your body. It is, pretty intense, not as intense like I'm not having you juice anything, thankfully. I'm not starving you either, but it will really reduce the glycogen levels. You will feel tighter. You will get rid of that little extra layer on top. But more importantly, you're going to prepare your mind for strategic eating as you envelop a little bit more of a flexible plan. Whether you choose to do my 8-week challenge, which is a great place. If you are a body buddy and you have not done my 8-week challenge yet, you need to. It is my flagship product. You really have not embraced Body Buddies until you've done an 8-week challenge with me. The new one, the one with the online portal. So many have done my challenges before, but this is the newest, the latest, the greatest. And with all of the new components of technology I have worked to embed in this, please just do it for yourself, just to really remind yourself, lay the groundwork. Even if you don't follow the meal plans to the T, even if you don't follow the workouts to the T, there's gym workouts, there's home workouts, the grocery lists, recipes, but above all, it's about going through that learning process and holding yourself accountable to be finding the right strategy for yourself over the course of that 8 weeks. So find that at powerfoodslifestyle.com/8-week challenge. And it's the number 8. All right, my body buds, I think that is it for me. I hope you have enjoyed learning about these 9 signs that you are not eating enough. I hope you take seriously the nutrition you put in your body. I don't want you to become obsessive. I do want you to be extremely aware, especially if you are having difficulties, whether in your body composition that's impacting your ability to feel good, your confidence, your experience in this earth life, as well as any other conditions that are flaring up that are not making your life enjoyable. Proper nutrition gives us the freedom to be doing what we can do and to really alleviate a lot of those things. Do your best every single day. Remember to make choices in a way that you say and you ask yourself, is this going to power my body? That's what we want to do. So power your body, one meal, one workout, one day at a time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can learn more about Body Buddies and Power Foods Lifestyle by going to www.body-buddies.com, BODY-BUDDIES.com, and powerfoodslifestyle.com. That's www.POWERFOODS-lifestyle.com.
Information in this episode is provided for informational purposes and is not meant to substitute the advice provided by your own physician or other medical professional. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.